My name's Simeon Quarry, I'm a Canon ambassador, and today we're going to look at how we can increase the standard of our live streams. I know a number of you may have followed my career over a number of years, from being a wedding photographer to now working with video and also immersive technologies to totally change the standard of education. And live streaming is becoming a fundamental part of what I get involved in for my business, but also as an individual on a day-to-day basis. Perhaps you're working alongside a place of worship, or perhaps you are working with organizations and clients and you see the opportunity of increasing the standard of your webinars and your online meetings. So how do we set up a high production live stream? Well, we need to think about our camera choice, the settings for those cameras, perhaps the framing as well, and along with that comes our lighting and a number of tips and tricks and little hacks that could really elevate the standard of your live streaming production. The likelihood is that you've already done your first live stream production. Many of us working remotely or communicating with friends and family all over the world, we're using web cameras connected to our computers to do that. A web camera doesn't necessarily, definitely doesn't provide us with the optimal look. So I'm going to replace my webcam with a Canon camera. In this case, I've got the Canon XF605. So I can, for example, crop out and frame the shot so I no longer have the distracting elements in the frame. The attention's more focused on me, which is the purpose of me maybe leading a webinar and increasing the production value on a meeting. Another key tip is to look at our lighting. If you are a video creator or a cinematographer, one of the first things we like to do is we love to shape light and control it. So let's turn off the house lights and we need to turn on a light, and already we are going to start to look much better. And with this light in this position that's above me now, you can't see anything in the background, right? The background now is free from clutter and the focus is totally on me, which is what I'm looking for. Now, if anyone's watched any of my content online, I've got a distinct Simeon look, which for me involves adding lighting that's in the background of the shot. So I'm going to do that now. Immediately by adding some lighting into my scene, I've added that extra drama. Today you've seen us on set working with the XF605. I love a camera that's really flexible. So for audio, we've got the professional option of having XLRs going directly into the camera. Not just one, but multiple. I always have a minimum of 2 going in. But on outputs, we will often live stream in HD. But the key thing as well is we may want to record at the same time internally to give us that flexibility of editing in post-production with a much higher quality. So we've just looked at a basic live streaming setup using one camera, but how do we elevate our production standards to include multiple cameras? And what we have here is the Canon XF605 set up with a much wider shot. This little green tape, I'm just going to hide slightly. I want to make sure I'm in the center of the frame, and this means that if I drift, as I tend to do, I can just re-anchor myself back in the correct position no matter where I go. So this is great as a one camera, but when people watch TV, what are they used to doing? They're used to having more than one camera. I've got the XF605, but I've got the PTZ CRN 500. So Cornell, if you can just set that to preset 2, and then I'm nicely framed, excellent. We're now taking control and we're actually creating our own, almost a TV-like production. That's giving us that extra level of interest. But of course, in true Simeon style, what we want to do is we want to go even further. So let's see if we can now set up a third setup. Now, I've got a decent amount of space. It's not humongous, but just by adding a seat in a different position, I've now got some variation. And what I've got the option of doing is still using the same camera, the CRN 500, moved into another camera position. When you've got multiple cameras, typically you need different operators to control and move those different cameras. But with the CRN 500, the great thing is Cornell can be in the same position and he can control the position of the camera, the framing, the exposure, right from his seat. If we now cut to camera 3, we are in a great position to provide yet more variation. Well, I like to have a 3-act structure, if you will. So I'll often say, right, Cornell, let's start off with position 1. And then let's move to position 2 with camera angle 2 and camera 2. And then for the closing remarks, let's move to camera 3. And you can see that we are actually turning a live stream into a creative process. And if you're like me, you're thinking about, well, how can you use creative decision making, creative storytelling, even cinematography in order to be able to elevate the standard of your live streams? The great thing with the PTZ or pan, tilt, zoom cameras is that we get even more flexibility. It's a 4K Ultra HD camera. And what also really excites me about this, what I could do is have Cornell and other operators remain at home with a live switching device or even the app so that we can pull off a live stream in production just with a minimal crew here on site. The camera also has 15 times optical zoom. The other feature that these 3 cameras have got is the Canon dual pixel CMOS AF, which just keeps me in focus no matter where I move within my scene. And I've got it set right now to face tracking, but even further to eye tracking. So as I move around my scene and we're running live, the camera is keeping me in focus and I can just focus on what I'm saying. The key to any successful live stream is preparation. A few key tips. Could you have more than one camera angle, more than one camera? Batteries, well, actually, better than batteries may be plugging the cameras directly into the mains. The same for your lighting as well. There's nothing like having an interruption with the camera running out of battery, lighting, or even sound and microphone. So let's plug in cables wherever we can. On that subject, the internet is absolutely key. It's a fundamental part of a live stream. So can we test a live stream in advance? We do a speed test. Can we wire the connection as well? And then often when we're doing a live stream, we are connecting directly into a social media platform that may allow scheduling, for example, but sometimes social media has a secondary piece of software that might need to be connected to. Prep this in advance. Another key tip is, can you log in to your social media feed or into the platform that your audience is viewing the live stream in or on? Because we want to make sure that they are seeing what we expect them to see and they are hearing what we expect them to hear. Just thinking about these few tips can really mean that it takes the stress out of your live streaming production. Hopefully you now feel more confident to go out and broadcast your first live stream or increase that production value. You now understand the tools that you have available to go live. My name's Simeon Quarry. Thank you so much for getting involved in this live stream session.